Welcome back to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and other NFL related news. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. After a month hiatus, I took a little bit of vacation time for myself, especially during the dry season of the NFL. So now we are back to once a week episodes once again. Kind of glad to get back. Was missing a little bit, so hopefully y'all enjoy the episodes coming up. I took some time to think of new ideas on how to spice up some of the episodes coming up. This episode is probably going to be on the shorter end, only to really cover some of the bigger topics and themes that we're starting to see roll around in the NFL, with a couple of players still holding out of training camp that we mentioned last time. One that would more affect the Eagles than anything, and you'll see why that is. But before we get started, if y'all could leave a like and subscribe down below, that would be much appreciated. So without a further ado, let's hop right into some of the bigger news that happened a few weeks ago. That being the Steelers trading for corner Jalen Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith. So, quick memory jog here. A few months ago, it was kind of rumored, if not partly announced, that the Dolphins would be shopping corner Jalen Ramsey, mainly because he wanted a new contract, and he wouldn't really be playing with the Dolphins if that was not the case. So, it seems like the Steelers were the ones, which I don't think I had them listed as one of my teams to pick them up, but it seems like the Steelers were the ones to step in and trade for the several-time All-Pro corner, and also Jonnu Smith. Now, the interesting part about picking up tight end Jonnu Smith is that they already have a solid tight end in Pat Freiermuth, but I feel like the reason that they did this was because I think their tight end 2 got an injury during training camp or the off-season workouts. So he is already down, which would bring them in a new solid ball catcher off of the line, or technically at the slot position. Arthur Smith, offensive coordinator for the Steelers, has had a lengthy history with tight end Jonnu Smith, with Jonnu Smith's first breakout season coming under Arthur Smith's first season as the Titans' offensive coordinator. So there is some relationship here, and he does like to, and it is well known that Arthur Smith likes to use his guys and get them the ball because he relies on them a lot. We saw it down, obviously, in Tennessee, and we also saw it down in Atlanta when Arthur Smith was the head coach down there and Jonnu Smith was the tight end 2. So we could see something similar to what we saw down in Atlanta for Jonnu Smith, and he kind of did regress a little bit. He is up in age. I forget how old he is. He's 29 years old. He's a tight end, so realistically now is going to be the time that we start to see some of his numbers drop off. But if he goes in the right system, I could kind of see why that would work out. Which leads me to the overall trade, which we'll get into here in a second. The Steelers traded Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 2027 fifth-round pick for Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 seventh-round pick. It kind of shows, it kind of confirms what we all thought, especially when they picked up Aaron Rodgers, that this would be the all-in kind of season here, going out, getting all the veteran talent possible. Still, they got rid of one of their more solid pieces on the defense, that being Minkah Fitzpatrick, who did also take a step back last year as well, especially being at 28 years old at the safety position. You could assume that this would be the trend going forward, but who entirely knows? So with the addition of Aaron Rodgers, it is a clear signal that this is all or nothing for the Steelers and Mike Tomlin specifically as well. We could see if this does not pan out, Mike Tomlin could be gone. Or if this ends up working somehow, like if they make a deep run or make a run all the way to the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some of these pieces come back, like a Jalen Ramsey and a Jonnu Smith as well. Both, I believe, are on the last years of their contract. I know Jalen Ramsey is. I forget whether Jonnu Smith is, but I'll have to look into that further. And they gave up a solid piece in their secondary, that being Minkah Fitzpatrick, who I did say took a step back. So it is understandable that they were willing to let him go if they brought in pieces that could help them win now. I'm not sure who's going to take over that safety spot, if you want me to be honest. But they have 3 solid corners now in Joey Porter Jr., Jalen Ramsey, and Darius Slay. So the corner room in Pittsburgh is stacked as of right now. The Steelers also, on top of all this, still need to get T.J. Watt a new contract, and he is looking to be paid close to $40 million a year in guaranteed money, which would make him the highest paid non-quarterback player in the league. That's not surprising. He has almost back-to-back like defensive player of the year. But overall, I do feel like it's maybe a little bit of an overpay, maybe 35 or like 38. But as soon as you start to creep into that 40, it starts to hurt a little bit, especially because he's going to be on the books probably for 4 years or 3 years, depending on how much he wants. And then on top of that, he's aging. He's constantly injured nowadays. So although when he's on the field, he's arguably the greatest player on there, it still hurts the team arguably from their pocketbook kind of view. So with the Dolphins now, with them trading away pieces like a Jalen Ramsey, they do have some stuff figured out at the corner position. But the real position that was really a question mark when it came to what they needed, and because Jonnu Smith was a solid tight end for them, although he didn't have such a breakout or like a continued gradual increase in stats, they still needed a tight end, somebody to come in and catch the ball. And it was announced I feel like it was a couple days after this trade, it was announced that the Giants were trading Darren Waller to the Dolphins, and Darren Waller would come back out of retirement. Now, Darren Waller is 32 years of age, and overall, he was arguably as good as Kelsey in his prime. But looking at it now, I'm not sure how good an aging Darren Waller would be for this high-flying, fast offense down in Miami. And this is honestly a make-or-break year for Mike McDaniels and arguably Tua as well. So hopefully Darren Waller can bring a new veteran presence to the middle of the field and can bring in some sure hands for him to get the grabs as well. So I do feel like this is kind of a smart move. I was a pretty big Darren Waller fan, especially back in his prime, especially back in both Oakland and Vegas. But I don't know how well it's going to pan out, having a 32-year-old tight end being the one that holds down the fort over the middle of the field. But I guess we're going to find out here and see whether or not this is a smart idea. All right, next up, some more recent news. As of filming this news came out yesterday. The Jets pay their young stars their top dollar. First, they paid their wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. He's now playing out his final year of his rookie contract, and his new contract will start up next season, that being a 4-year, $130 million contract with $90 million guaranteed. Uh, Before we go more deeply into that, they also dished out the most money to a corner in NFL history with a 4-year, $120 million contract with $86 million guaranteed to Sauce Gardner. Both players are young stars, and they are setting the market for younger stars to come, which is bringing me to this point that I want to talk about. The NFL is eventually going to run into a money problem, with more news recently coming out that the NFLPA and the NFL colluded together to make sure no guaranteed contracts for all guaranteed money would ever come to any former player, and that being exposed, we've seen some backlash from not as much NFL fans, but definitely a lot of the NFL players talking about it, and people that cover the sports media world as a whole. My feelings on it? Well, it's hard because in 2029, I believe the NFL is going to renegotiate with a lot of the broadcasting rights with Fox, with NBC, with Disney, with ESPN, and then and CBS as well. All of which I've grown up watching, all of which are iconic, and I hope don't go away. But the problem is now becoming, with this increase in the cap, you might start seeing a lot of these younger players. Let's take, and this guy was rattling in my head while I was doing more research about Garrett Wilson's contract, but another guy that just came off his rookie season, that being Brian Thomas Jr. down at Jacksonville. By the time that Brian Thomas Jr.'s contract is up, the NFL will be renegotiating with all the broadcasting rights. So we could start seeing players, younger players, now asking for, yeah, I'll take $130 million in the bank, but I want 100 or 110 of that guaranteed over the 4 years. We could start seeing that number increase. The number is staying, the top numbers, especially with incentives, staying around the same, but the guaranteed money taking a jump up substantially. And it could start to get dangerous, especially at the skill position, because there's only so many top guys, and they're going to start climbing over top of one another. And that's what we saw with the edge rusher market, and that's what we're still seeing. Max Crosby said it. Then Myles Garrett topped it. Now Trey Hendrickson is asking more than that. And now TJ Watt's asking more than that. It's starting to become not a problem, but it's definitely going to be an interesting storyline to follow throughout the next coming years of how these contracts are starting to shape out. These guys deserve it. Like Sauce Gardner, I'd like to argue that he's one of the top corners in the league. I would like to see him do better. He's had a bad couple of years, especially with injury, but I do feel like he could be the top corner in the entire league. On top of that, Garrett Wilson has kind of earned his keep. He's played with multiple quarterbacks, and his stats and his reliability has not gone down whatsoever. He's played with several different quarterbacks up to this point, and it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of his career pans out. Both of these guys are top of the league at their younger, star positions, but I would like to see how these contracts specifically start to impact both the wide receiver and corner markets, which are starting to climb significantly for both. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this stuff starts to pile up over the next couple of years, and how the NFLPA and NFL start to handle more guaranteed money within contracts. Alright, so the media and the NFL continue to slander Super Bowl MVP quarterback Jalen Hurts, placing him as the 9th best quarterback in a recent survey that came out a couple days ago. So, my question is, who would you guys assume would be ahead of Jalen Hurts? I would assume Patrick Mahomes. That's understandable. He's arguably the best quarterback in the entire league. Josh Allen, maybe. He just had a MVP caliber season, and he walked away with that trophy, so you can make that argument there. Lamar Jackson, constantly a dynamic player and hard to beat on the ground and sometimes in the pocket as well. He can have a solid day. Joe Burrow, okay, that's fine. He tore up the league. Even though he did not make it into the playoffs, he still had arguably one of the most historic quarterback seasons we've seen in a while. But that's understandable. 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's okay. These are some of the top guys. They're getting paid top money, and they're in my top 4. Let's put it that way. I could always argue Hurts and Burrow a little bit. But my 1, 2, 3, 4 is Mahomes at 1, Lamar at 2, Allen at 3. Here's what some of the NFL execs say. Mahomes at 1, understandable. Allen at 2, you could make the argument. You can make the argument that he's a better overall quarterback, especially having a better arm, more of a cannon, and more accuracy than Lamar. Burrow at 3. That's interesting. He's a really solid quarterback, but he hasn't been able to consistently stay healthy and get his team to the playoffs. But when he gets in, he can be dangerous. But overall, you can make the argument. I wouldn't put him over Lamar, but you can make the argument that he's on the same par as Josh Allen, or so on and so forth. Lamar at 4. I think that's too low for him. That's just a personal thing. Here's where we start to get funny. At 5, I would have been happy with Jalen Hurts here. At 5, you have a rookie, Jayden Daniels. Okay, so let's sit back, folks, and let's look at what happened to C.J. Stroud last year. All the hype during the offseason, everybody had the Texans primed to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, and C.J. Stroud was going to have an amazing year. But they're doing the same thing for Jayden Daniels on the Commanders now. And the thing is, the Texans weren't dealing with contract squabbles from a lot of their star players like the Commanders are now, which still might get solved by the time that happens. But still, overall, that's not a great sign to start off. And they hype up this kid to 5, who hasn't earned it. You could argue maybe 10, maybe 9, but past that, it's kind of starting to sound bizarre. And honestly, I don't think he's really earned it. I think he needs to go out and prove himself again. Then we can sit back and have this debate. But one wrong thing with how skinny his frame is, and he could get injured, and that could be a career-ending injury. So I'd argue that Jayden Daniels, although he has a high ceiling, has a low floor, and that floor is what I tend to go off of when I base off these quarterback rankings. And I just don't see Jayden Daniels being a top 5 and him barely being a top 10 quarterback. Matthew Stafford at 6. That's okay. I'm fine with that. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe 7 or 8. But that's okay. I'm not completely upset with that, but he's still a solid quarterback. Justin Herbert at 7 is completely bizarre. He's way overrated, and he hasn't been able to prove himself to win anything. So at the end of the day, what matters most is winning, and some of those top guys have been able to win, some of them not, but some of them have been able to win big games. Justin Herbert has, I think he's 0-2 in the playoffs, and one of those was like a 30-point comeback from another team, and the other one was like he threw 4 interceptions in a game. So Justin Herbert, I'd argue, is probably 9, maybe just ahead of Jayden Daniels, but honestly, I just don't see it. Jared Goff at 8. Interesting. This might be a fair one to say. He's a solid quarterback, but I feel like he's more like feeding off of the system that he's been able to get. So overall, I do feel like that Jared Goff is fine within the top 10 as long as he's not too high because his offense really supercharges him. And he can't really make plays himself. He can't roll out. He's too much of a pocket passer, statue kind of quarterback. At number 9, you have Jalen Hurts. Now, this is absolutely BS. Jalen Hurts has gone out. He's proven that he can win in big games. He proves that even if a team takes away some of his bigger weapons, like a Saquon Barkley, on the biggest stage, he can still go out and dominate. Supposedly one of the top 2 best players of all time. So overall, Jalen Hurts should be much higher. And I've gone on rants in the past. You can go look at past episodes where I go on rants and I rip the NFL media a new one. And honestly, that's going to be coming back this season. But right now, I'm honestly not going to do that because it's off season and they need something to talk about. And this is just a bizarre ranking here. And number 10 is Baker Mayfield. Understandable. Baker's done a really solid job down in Tampa Bay, turning around his career, and I could see him having another breakout kind of season where he takes the next step forward. Maybe takes the Bucks to the NFC Championship if everything goes right, but it's more of a wait and see kind of thing for Baker. Though I don't hate where he's at right now. I'm assuming you all sitting back on your couch or sitting in your chair are all thinking, Matt, what is your ranking for quarterbacks? Well, I'll go on and I'll tell you. Patrick Mahomes, 1. I'd probably have Lamar Jackson at 2. Josh Allen at 3. Joe Burrow at 4. Jalen Hurts at 5. I'd probably put Baker at 6. Stafford at 7. Keep Goff at 8. Herbert at 9. And it's hard. I could argue either way between 10. It could either be Jaden Daniels or it could be Jordan Love. Now I'm going to put Jaden Daniels because I argue that he had the better season stats-wise and had a deeper playoff run, which I do kind of base this kind of stuff off on. I do feel like Jaden Daniels has just that slight edge as of right now. I want to see some more tape from him, especially this season, and put him in more vicarious situations. But I will say that Jordan Love has the argument for 10 in my case. So yeah, that's my ranking. Overall, I do feel like that ESPN probably altered some of this just for talking points, especially putting Jalen Hurts down at 9 and not having like Jordan Love and having Justin Herbert so high, and not having Lamar within the top 3 and so on and so forth. I do feel like ESPN every year rigs this kind of stuff. And looking at where Hurts has been in the past, his highest ranking was 6. Last year's ranking was an honorable mention, which is fine. He did not have too great of a season in 2023, but he deserves to be within that top 5. You could argue top 4, but I'm more than happy than putting him at 5 because he needs to put a little bit more on the tape. And as a passer, I'm happy where he's at. And I do feel like this is a run-first team, so that will constantly bring him down in the rankings. Alright, before I let you all go for this episode, we still have one last topic to cover. It should be short and sweet because we've covered this in the past. Many players are still holding out for new contracts. Players like Trey Hendrickson with the Bengals or Shamir Stewart with the Bengals. Bengals, they're screwed on the defense, but another team also having a significant holdout, that being the Washington Commanders. Wide receiver a superstar wide receiver, Terry McLaurin is still holding out from the Commanders due to not seeing eye to eye with the team on contract, whether it's years, money, guaranteed money, incentives, so on and so forth. I feel like, from what I've heard recently, it's probably more guaranteed money than anything, which we literally just talked about how that could start impacting the league more. I do feel like Terry McLaurin has earned it. And if the Commanders can't figure that out, they probably won't trade him. He'll probably sit throughout most of the season while they try to figure it out. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is something like Jerry Jones did, where he paid CD and Dak on like the day of like the first game. I wouldn't be surprised if it takes that long. Terry McLaurin seems to be in a solid place financially to where he can sit back, take some of the fines on the chin, and then keep moving forward, looking for the next step in his career. Obviously, this could heavily impact Jaden Daniels, with only having Deebo Samuels as his number one wide receiver, and Noah Brown also getting injured back in minicamp. I wouldn't be surprised if we see kind of this situation start to blow up even more. The national media, especially like ESPN, so on and so whatever, also have started covering this story even more than they were at first. I was one of the first people that I saw actually really cover this story, and overall, this has started to gain steam, which will either A, get him paid faster, or B, make this so big that there are going to be teams calling for Terry McLaurin, and we could see a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, who need a solid 1-2 wide receiver. They have DK, solid deep threat, big body, but Terry McLaurin, a good route runner, smooth. I wouldn't hate to see him go to the Steelers and out of the NFC East. Alright, so that's all for this episode. I want to thank you all for stopping by and welcome back. We are only 15 days away from NFL football from being played again, with that being the Hall of Fame game on July 31st. So, in the coming weeks, especially as, in 6 days, the Eagles training camp begins, so as that starts to build up, I'll start covering more of the storylines coming out of that, and eventually I'll start doing some more fun sections during the podcast just to keep you guys engaged, so on and so forth. So, without a further ado, I want to thank you all for stopping by, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Oh, and one last thing. Go Birds!